Alright, so I wanted to go over sort of how to combine orthographic images before you put them into Maya, and I'll go over two different ways to do this. But for now, I'm just going to chuck everything casually in Photoshop like a crazy person. Mwahaha. Alright, so the goal of laying things out in Photoshop is basically to make your life easier in the future, and you only ever really need to do this once, so it's kind of just like convenient to set things up that way. I'm going to do a bad thing and just rasterize all of these because I don't want to deal with, I want to just be able to very easily select and delete other parts of this. So basically I'm just at this point trying to isolate the objects itself. So I'm going to do this with all of the images. Wow. And again, I do not care at all if you use Photoshop for this. This is Photoshop CS6, so I know it differs pretty aggressively probably from any of the Photoshops that you guys have. So I'm not going to really go over like how to use Photoshop per se in this, just for like sort of deleting images or sort of like manipulating, moving images around. This is mostly just, again, a tutorial on how to set up orthographic images. I got a new tablet yesterday and I was playing around with it, so that's all of this nonsense in the background, which I'm going to get rid of. All right, so I'm going to throw in a few rulers that are going to help me align my objects to be, vertical and horizontal and all of that. So if we look at this, this one's actually pretty decent. But what I'm going to do is just Control-T to open up Transform. And if I line this up, I can basically put the pivot in the corner, and then I can rotate it ever so slightly so it's like a little bit straighter. Hit Enter. Cool. That one's pretty much done. So what I'm going to do is go through and basically, again, I'll do the same thing here where I sort of like line this up in a corner. I just sort of go through and systematically organize my images one at a time. So again, I'll throw that pivot in the corner, and then I'll just tilt that. In this case, it seems like there's a little bit of taper or perspective or something in my image. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. I'm just going to kind of go through and do all of these and then come back and deal with the rest of this later. So I found personally this is just the workflow that I like for doing things. It's kind of easy. It's not, not a whole lot to really say here. Just kind of like go through, do the things for several images. Yay. It's very fun, very satisfying, it's fulfilling work. See, if I was, if I was thinking, you can also eyeball this. I just, if you're trying to be as accurate as possible, I found this is a pretty decent way to go about doing things. All right. And again, same process for literally every single image. All right, cool. So now we have, this is like aligned pretty well to be straight for the most part. Like all, I mean, this image is actually a little bit more warped than I expected. So I think I might do a thing where I go through, and if I can remember where the heck it is, I honestly don't use Photoshop that much anymore. So I'm going to do Transform, Skew, and I'm going to shift that over slightly so that my edges are straighter and trying to basically remove some of the perspective in that. So that is a thing, an option that you can do. And basically at this point I have all of my images nicely laid out. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through, and there's different schools of thought. Like some people would say, remove the entire background, and I'm just like, that's a whole lot of effort. I mean, you could go through, like I said, with like the quick select tool or something like that and just like delete all of that. I don't care about that. I'm not going to dock you points if you don't do that or anything like that. So basically what you want to go through at this point and do is line up all your images and also make sure that they are scaled properly, like that they're all the same size. So what I'm going to do is pretty similar to what I did before, line these up in the corner, and then I'm just going to scale these. I'm holding Shift and dragging, so it's scaling it uniformly. And then basically just go ahead and, like I said, scale these until they are the same size. This is going to just make your life easier down the road. I'll go ahead and hide that, go find whatever my next image is, and I'm just going to go ahead and rotate these so these are all facing the same direction. And I'm actually not sure what side the hole is on, so this seems to be the wider end here, which I guess would make sense. Oh god, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of flip this around, like so. and make sure that that is, again, lined up with the original image, and just scale that down and move it into place so that that is clearly not the same size. Just go ahead and, again, get those pretty much as accurate as possible so that they are the same size. And then for this one, so this should be, that's actually pretty much the perfect size already. I will take that. Huzzah! I actually have no idea what side of this is what at this point. I'm pretty lost in terms of which sides correspond to which, but same difference, more or less, sort of. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make this opaque again. And then at this point, what I'm going to do, I have all my images nicely lined up. I'm just going to kind of lay these out on the page in a way that is easy to follow. And actually, at this point, I do like to try to keep them sort of as square to each other as possible, but I am going to go through and sort of delete some of the extra stuff on each side of this image, because it's just going to make things a little bit easier in the future when I'm trying to, lay things out and all of that. So I'm just going to use my lasso tool to do this one. And this is pretty much as fancy as I ever get with these. Like I said, I usually don't go out of my way to like pull the entire background off or anything like that. You can, and honestly, with the way that I've set these images up, it wouldn't be terribly difficult. I just... so there's a lot of... As long as your images are good, there is, some leeway in terms of like how you personally like setting up your orthographics or, how clean you want the backgrounds, that kind of thing. I personally find that I don't mind, working with really gross orthographics. Not that it's a thing that I would recommend. I would like to sort of stress that. But like, if I'm sketching orthographics particularly, I am an absolute trash 2D artist. Cough. So usually my drawings for that are like pretty darn questionable. All right, so for this one up here, I think this is the part on this side of the hole punch, and now I'm kind of like off my screen. So I just kind of lay these out in a way that like helps me figure out like, okay, like this is the side of this. Actually, I think this one's probably backwards, but whatever. Actually, no, not whatever. We edit, and there's a button somewhere for flip horizontal. Use that button. Cool. All right, so yeah, so I just sort of like laying out, like if this is corresponding to this side of the pencil sharpener, that's how I prefer to lay things out. But this is more or less all you really need to do for your orthographics. And then once you're done, you can go through and, crop your image back to some less crazy looking size. Shift that over because I can. So I'm just going to go ahead and yay, image, crop. Wow, that looks like some kind of crazy person, like art, whatever. Anyway, so I'm just going to save these as pencil sharpener. Great, pencil sharpener orthos. Alright, and then I'll show you in, I guess, a different video how to throw these into Maya so that you can actually, start modeling off of them.